Hello and welcome to Dance's Support Mission by Sabine for Shine Your Light. Today we have a new episode of Dancer to Dancer, Words of Wisdom. And the goal of those interviews is to meet the person behind the dancer and share with you all not only the highlights of someone's career, but also the challenges behind the scenes. Truly, my wish is to bring healing into the dance world, dancing to heal, healing to dance, one artist at a time and one personal story at a time. So today I'm delighted to welcome Casey Hurd. Casey, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So Casey, you've been a principal dancer a bit all over the world. I mean, you've been with the Dutch National Ballet, the Pacific Northwest, you've danced a bit everywhere. And you've transformed you into a new career now, and which is really exciting for me. So I want to talk about that a lot. You created something called Ballet Rising. We're going to talk about it, but I want to start with the beginning because my intention is really to hear the story of people because I think that's what is so interesting. So let us know how you started ballet, why you started ballet, and when did you decide that you would do that as a profession?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Salt Lake City, Utah, a little city. It's not so little anymore, but it used to be a little city off in the desert in the west of the United States. I always joke that it was more famous. It's more well known for cowboys and skiers than it is for ballet dancers. But no, I was a very introverted little kid. I had a lot of social issues. I was sort of very quiet and didn't interact with other kids very well. I just preferred to be off on my own, drawing pictures and sort of, just diving into my wild fantasies and imagination. But my parents and all of my teachers were very worried about me. They wondered if I was going to be able to, really grow up and do something with my life. And so my mom was kind of like, I was taking my little sister to ballet classes. My mom worked full time, and my dad wasn't around very much when I was a little kid. He was working down in California. They were separated since I was a kid. And so I was taking my little sister to ballet class on public transit anyway. So my mom was like, hey, why don't you take some ballet lessons? I was like, yeah, sure. Maybe. She talked me into auditioning for the Nutcracker, which in Salt Lake City was a really big thing. It's a kind of an annual thing. And, the news comes down and interviews all these hundreds of kids from all over the state of Utah and neighboring states who are auditioning for Ballet West Nutcracker. And yeah, she talked me into doing the Nutcracker. And so I auditioned, and I think 36 boys auditioned that year, and they only needed 34. I was one of the 2 that got cut. And it's pretty embarrassing. It was pretty, disheartening. I was really upset and depressed, but, my mom was like, don't let this get you down, work at it, and start taking some lessons, and next year you can do it again. So I did. I made it the next year, and I started, the ballet lessons helped a lot. And what I discovered was that I found sort of a community of kids that I really liked, and sort of I felt like I fit in, and just kind of went from there. I really enjoyed it. I loved dancing. I liked my teachers. I liked the other kids, and just kind of took off from there. And also, we didn't have much money. And so traveling and vacations were never a thing for me, and suddenly, some ballet schools were like, hey, this kid's kind of talented. I was getting some scholarships to schools, summer programs and things like that. And suddenly I got to go to Philadelphia and study at the Pennsylvania Ballet School. And I thought, wow, I can travel outside of the state of Utah, And it just started taking me places, and I just fell in love. And I think around 14, I said, I want to do this full time. I want to make a career of this. I want to become the next Baryshnikov. And sort of that's how it went.
So then that happened very easily, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the process of making the decision was fairly easy for me. It wasn't really an easy process, being made fun of at school constantly. I don't think a day went by in my life as a young kid since the age of 10. I wasn't called, all sorts of derogatory words, faggot and nerd, sissy boy, everything. I was bullied on a daily basis, but, so that wasn't terribly easy, but it never really got me down. I kind of felt like, whatever, I'm doing my thing. So it wasn't an easy process, but I guess in the end it was what I knew what I wanted to do, and nothing was going to really stop me from doing it. So
when you decided to do that, you joined a more professional school then?
Yeah, well, I spent quite a few years at a small ballet school, which was a great time. Loved it. Small, school in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I think around 15, I went to Ballet West. At the time, it was called Ballet West Conservatory. It was a bigger, more professional school, and it was sort of led into the Ballet West, the company, which is a great company. And so, yeah, eventually I did that. And then eventually I went to Washington, D.C., where I studied at the Kirov Academy. And that's where things really started taking off. I got closer to New York and, started, just getting discovered, I guess you could say, by directors and stuff.
So tell us a little bit about it. So where did you start and where did that lead you afterwards?
So my dream since I was a kid was to join American Ballet Theatre. And, I went and I auditioned and I made it, got it, got in there. And it was kind of funny. I was doing an interview not too long ago with Julio Boca, and the whole experience was just kind of surreal. I remember my first day at ABT kind of walking in. It just didn't feel real. Like I'm here. I've made it. I've achieved my dream. It wasn't real until I walked around the corner and I looked into Studio One and I saw Julio dancing with Alessandra Ferri, and they were rehearsing Romeo and Juliet. And it suddenly just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, I'm in ABT.
It's real.
Yeah. It was another surreal experience. It was amazing.
So how long did you stay in New York?
Not very long. I was an apprentice for a few months, and then I got into the studio company for a year, and that was an incredible experience. I'll never forget that. I worked with John Meehan, who was the director at the time, and that was just amazing. I don't think I've experienced so much growth as an artist, as an athlete, as a person in that year. And then I spent a year in the Corps de Ballet at ABT, and that was actually quite the opposite. It was very just a learning experience, we'll say. It was just kind of like
reality check, right? Because I think you kind of wait quite a bit there, before you do it.
Yeah. I think reality check is really the best way to put it. It was a difficult time for ABT. At the time, they were having a lot of budget problems. They weren't doing anything kind of new and exciting. And also, like, all of the principals in the company at the time came from outside the company. They hired people as principals. And so you didn't see a lot of dancers coming from the Corps de Ballet up the ranks, and just kind of, they weren't touring anywhere very much. It was just kind of a really, a bad time for the company. And I took that very personally and sort of lost my focus and sort of fell into, the small boy moving to the big city, getting enticed by the lights and everything like that. Discipline fell off the cliff,
That's another experience too. I mean, it's also something that we don't live through as teenagers when we're dancing. So we have to go through that at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also when you're coming out of schools, you're coming out of school and you're one of the best dancers in the school, but then all of a sudden you get into the company, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, these are the best dancers in the world. Suddenly you're nobody. It was it was just, all of it was a learning experience. But I found myself in Seattle with the Pacific Northwest Ballet, which is a great company, phenomenal repertoire. They only hired principals from the company through the ranks and things like that. So it's just a very different experience. But I immediately started doing soloist and principal roles from the first day I got there. I had no time to party and do all that stuff. I was just working. I think that's the best thing you can do as a director, is just take the energy out of your young dancers by making them work like crazy.
Yeah, that's true. It can be really depressing when you're young and you have to wait, and like nothing is happening. I mean, it happens for a lot of people. Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, so that was a great experience. Loved it. I still, consider Pacific Northwest Ballet my family. It was great. All those dancers. I became a principal dancer eventually, but all those dancers knew me from when I was in the Corps de Ballet, which was a very different thing from the Dutch National Ballet, where everybody knew me as the guy who came in as a principal. It was sort of a very different way of seeing me.
Yeah, you grew up there. So when did you join? I think you joined when I left. Was that 2000? What was it?
I think it was just after you left. It was in 2008.
Yes. Mm.
I was guesting with with Dutch National Ballet in 2007. So yeah, that was a crazy experience. I was just dancing with PNB. I was happy. It was a great city, made good money. I was, moving up and all that stuff. And suddenly out of nowhere, the director of the Dutch National Ballet calls me and says, "Hey, I want you to come and guest with the company and maybe you'd be interested in joining us full time." I was like, "Yeah, sure." Can't say no to that.
Yeah.
So suddenly I found myself guesting with the Dutch National Ballet. And, at first I kind of thought, "Oh, I'll try it out and see what, but I'm happy in Seattle. If it's not broke, don't fix it." Right. In the end, I just thought, okay, this is an opportunity I can't pass up, dancing with a bigger company in the heart of Europe. And I've never lived outside the United States and I've always wanted to. And Amsterdam is such a beautiful city. I love it.
It's a wonderful international village, although it changed a lot. I mean,
yeah,
it really changed around the Euro time, actually, when we changed to Euro. What I loved about Amsterdam is that it was a village, literally. It felt like something really cozy, and now it becomes much more like a big metropolitan city.
A little bit
with all the British coming to Brexit.
Yeah,
I think it changed a little bit.
It has grown a lot. It's not the same village, quiet little village, even from when I moved here in 2008. It's kind of
no, it had changed already, because I moved out. I went to Boston. I came back, and it was a different, complete different feeling. But I love that city. It's beautiful.
But it's still, as big major European cities go, it's still quite a village. It's much more bustling now than it used to be. But still, I come back from Paris or New York or London, and I just feel exhausted. And Amsterdam is just so.
Yeah, you're on your bike. It makes a huge difference. Even if it's pouring with rain, you're still on your bike.
Yeah, but people are slower. People are more take it a little bit easier. Yeah, it's just it's a beautiful city, and it's calm. It's not too big, but not too small. It's just and you're right in the heart of Europe. So couldn't say no, and been here ever since.
So you've danced till when with the Dutch National?
I left the company in 2016.
Okay. So how was it for you, the transition?
Yeah, it was tough. You've had this identity your entire life as someone who's a dancer, and suddenly, I didn't stop dancing immediately, but it was obviously, at the end, I didn't leave and go to another company. I wasn't really pursuing my ballet career much after that. I was still doing some shows and doing some guestings and things like that, but I wasn't trying to push to become something more. It was just kind of the tail end of everything. So it was just a strange time to sort of sit there and look in the mirror and say, well, who am I now? What am I now? Where do I go from here? And it was, I had a lot of friends who kind of told me similar things, after they retired. They were like, it's going to be tough for a little while finding your identity and things like that. But,
Isn't that amazing, though, that we identify so much with being a dancer that we don't even know? For me, it shocked me, because I realized that before I stopped dancing, because I did a lot of self-development work, and I was like, wow, I'm locked up into that little personality thing, and when I discovered something else, I was like, wow, what if I brought that into my dancing? What would that be? It would be amazing in the end.
Yeah.
But very often we realize that when we have to stop.
Yeah.
So then what happened? Tell us, because that's the interesting part.
So I left the Dutch National Ballet. I was doing some guestings, doing some traveling, and I just wanted to take some time off and travel. That's kind of the one thing I knew I wanted to do. I didn't want to rush into anything. I didn't want to say, okay, I'm going to go straight into school and start studying this or that. I had some time and I had some options. I had a little bit of money, and I thought, let's just go and sort of see where the road takes you. I'm always that kind of a person where I like to see where the road takes me. I'm always sort of satisfied that way. If I plan everything out and say, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this, it never works out very well. So I was just like, yeah, go, and something will come up, and it always does. So I was just traveling a lot, and slowly I started to realize I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay in the ballet world or not. I have so many interests and things I like to study, and history and geography, and lately it's been more in finance, but just tons of things. Architecture, I was thinking about being an architect for a long time. And so I just wanted to really see where those things could fit in. And, you know, like I said, I was traveling a lot, and I slowly decided that I wanted to stay in the ballet world. I just didn't know exactly what position, you know, because we sort of define everything. Okay, there's the ballet world, and within the ballet world, there's different positions. There's director, there's dancer, there's choreographer, there's teacher. You know, you kind of fit yourself into one of those boxes, and I didn't want to fit myself into any of those boxes. And yet I didn't want to leave this career that I've spent my whole life in. It's my network, it's my friends, it's my knowledge base, it's everything. But yet I don't want to be a teacher or a director yet. And so, yeah, I just decided I'm going to make my own position. I'm going to start my own project, and the project is about traveling to places that I never got to travel to as a dancer. You know, you think about it, and you know, as a dancer, you travel frequently to places like Europe and North America, and sometimes East Asia. But how often does ballet take you to places like India or Africa or Southeast Asia? You know, and I thought those are fascinating places that I would love to go and learn. And turns out they have pretty big ballet communities in these places that a lot of people didn't realize. And I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to connect these people. I want to work with these people. I want to bring the people on the periphery of the ballet community into the center and bring the whole community closer together. And yeah, started Ballet Rising, and here we are today.
So how would you define, I mean, you've defined it a little bit, but I mean, so you want to connect people, but ultimately, what is your goal with this?
To bring the community closer together, to help the art form grow, and just help other people who I think come you know, it's hard to say they come from a similar background as I do. There are some similarities, and I think that's what it's all about for me, is just people that don't come from your typical ballet-centric society. You know, as a kid, of course, I come from a ballet-centric society. I'm from the United States, but, you know, when I was a kid, I thought about it. And I'm from a place that's more known for cowboys than ballet dancers. And so I've always felt sort of like I'm from the periphery. I'm from a small city off in the desert, far away from New York and Paris and London. And for me, it's just about, you know, I had a great career. I danced around the world, danced with some of the biggest ballet companies in the world. I worked with all the great choreographers. And so it's just kind of like paying it forward. This is my opportunity to help other people that feel a bit far away from the ballet centrics, the center of the community, and bring them close together.
Okay, but by bringing them close together, you mean, like, do you create opportunities for them to join some project that are in the center of the ballet world? I mean, I'm just trying to understand better.
So far, it's really just about exposing who they are. So we're telling lots of stories. I'm doing lots of interviews. We've made a couple of short films, and I have a wonderful writer, Lindsay, who works with me, and she writes a lot of articles. So, you know, it's really about just exposing who they are and what they're doing, and just sort of, you know, putting their story out there for others in the ballet world to read about it and hear about it. And from there, it kind of takes on a life of its own. You know, there's been several occasions where people in the ballet world have heard about what's happening, say like the ballets, the Association of Ballet Teachers of Nigeria, which is a whole bunch of self-taught ballet teachers who've all got ballet schools all over Nigeria. Most of them have never taken a ballet class before in their life. They've just seen it online on YouTube and things like that, and they loved it and said, hey, I want to start a ballet school. But they know that, you know, they're not qualified, and so they're trying to bring ballet teachers and bring other people from the ballet community to Nigeria to help develop a curriculum and help them develop their skills as teachers. And, you know, and so other people in the community have seen it and followed up on it and have subsequently gone to Nigeria and worked with them. And so it's really just about exposing their stories and sort of shedding a little bit of light on who they are and what they're doing. And then the community, the rest of the ballet community, kind of takes it from there.
Wow. You know, it's funny because in France, like 25 years ago, we didn't have any diploma either. It's like my grandmother could have opened a ballet school if she wanted to. No, but it's true. Of course, we're more exposed. We have Paris Opera, we have all, you know, so many companies. But it's interesting because in the end, dance is also natural. Ballet might not, it's much more structured, but you could learn it by looking. you know, just we
Possible.
become so codified with all the training and the thing, and it can become so rigid, but in the end, it's still expression through movement.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. I mean, I watched a few interviews on your channel, and I think they're very interesting. It's very professionally done, which I also appreciate a lot. So
Oh, thank you.
I would say to anybody who watches this interview, go and have a look at Ballet Rising, because it's really interesting, and it has a very human feel to it, which I like very much. So
Yeah.
that's my little
Yeah, I like to bring that element, you know. And so I don't like to edit too much. I like to just have the conversation really raw. And of course, if people request to have something edited, I'll do it. But yeah, I like just the raw conversation. It's you get really deep into things, and it's just a lot of fun. And yeah, it's just great to talk to people and sort of see where we all come from and what makes us all tick and what makes us similar and what makes us different. You know, it's just good fun.
And stories, I mean, you know, storytelling has always been a way to learn things. So I mean, why not talk about everybody's story? Because I realized doing this as well, that there's so many people I don't know. When, you know, the Ballet West is such a small world, and you know, I think I know quite a lot of people, but I know nobody. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like if you start making connection, you're like, oh wow, and this woman has done all of this, and this guy has done. I think it's fascinating. So I'm having a lot of fun doing all those things.
Yeah.
Let's go back to you. What would you say was your biggest challenge as a dancer?
Discipline. It's hard. It's hard to imagine. You know, you have to be disciplined in order to become a dancer, and to become a successful dancer, you have to be even that much more disciplined. For me, I guess it wasn't discipline. It was more the consistency of discipline. You know, I was extremely disciplined at certain moments in my life, but it was hard to be consistent. And so, you know, I would let things get me down. There were several points in my career. One of them was when I was at ABT. I had another episode when I was at Pacific Northwest Ballet, and I had a short episode here with Dutch National Ballet as well, where just something got me down. You know, whatever it was, not getting a role or not getting a promotion or whatever, you know, the various things. And instead of just pushing through and maintaining my, you know, just maintaining my focus on what is it I want and where do I want to go and how do I be the best I can, I sort of let things get to me a little bit, and that really just broke my discipline, and I kind of at times just felt, nah, screw it, what am I doing? I should do something else. Ballet is stupid. You know, and I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd had a little bit more, like, you know, focus on the main goal, and, you know, the ability to sort of put those things aside and deal with them in a better way. But
Focus, or just maybe more like mental and emotional management, right? Knowing how to
Yeah,
what comes at you in the
yeah,
challenge.
mental management. You know, just being able to deal with things in a good, productive way, rather than just letting them get inside and just becoming self-destructive. You know, that happened several times throughout my career, and, you know, looking back on it now, of course, you look and you're like, yeah, that wasn't so good.
So, but I mean, how did you get out of it? Because eventually you got out of it. So how did you find the strength and, you know, the power to actually step out of those moments?
Eventually things came around. You know, I was very lucky because I was extremely talented. You know, I had a great facility for classical ballet. I'm a tall, strong male with, you know, long legs, good feet. You know, those things kind of get you a little bit further in life. And so directors didn't give up on me so quickly. You know, and so eventually I came around and realized the errors of my ways and tried to fix it from there. So I was fortunate to get, you know, second chances and
You had
opportunity.
support, basically. People didn't
Yeah,
let you drown.
yeah, yeah. I had quite a few mentors throughout my career that really helped me out. You know, there's not one particular person that I can think of that I went to every time, but there was always somebody around who helped me straighten things out and get things back on track. So yeah, it's really about having people that you can look up to and trust at various points that can sort of help guide you in one way or another.
Yeah, well, I mean, the mentorship keeps coming back, right? It's like it's very important to be surrounded by people first who care and who can really guide you in a good way.
Yeah.
through,
Yeah, and especially in a career that's so personal, we take our careers very personal, and some directors don't really like that. They think you should not take things personally. When you don't get a role, you don't get a promotion, or something bad happens. You have an sort of a fight with a choreographer. They think that you shouldn't take any of these things personal. I would argue you should take them extremely personal.
right.
It's a career, and it's a short one, so you got to make the best of it. But saying that just because you should take it personally doesn't mean you should take it personally and deal with it in the wrong way. You should take it personally, but focus on how to manage the situation in a productive manner.
Yeah, and it's always different for a director who has 90 dancers to think of, and you only have one
Yeah.
to think about, and you're like, well, obviously, what matters is me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you have to step outside of, I wish I had the ability to step outside of my shoes a little bit further and step into the shoes of the director. Not that I would agree with, every decision, everything every director said to me, but, understanding that that director has 90 other dancers, to deal with. It's kind of
so basically that answers my question. What do you wish you'd known, when you were a dancer that you know now?
There's a big list of those.
Well, I want to know the list because that's interesting.
Yeah, the biggest one I think was, like I was saying, the fortitude, the ability to push through adversity. But I think also like nutrition and hydration, how important that is. That's something I talk about a lot all the time, that I always knew that nutrition and hydration was important. Exactly how important, looking back on it now, I think I could have been a much better dancer, much more consistent, stronger, more physically fit, recovered faster, had I known more and practiced better nutrition and hydration and things like that. And I think one of the other ones,
we're still not treated as athlete. Sorry, my French. You know what I mean? It's like we are artists, but we are also athletes, and I think it's still not clear with the people who actually direct us that this is the case. You know what I mean? Even at school, like, as a teacher, you need to know when you have to stop and rest. And I don't find this is being incorporated into
very
curriculum.
slowly.
It's like, and nutrition and hydration, all of this, it's not good enough to learn it in the nutrition course, because basically the kids, they go like, well, this is nutrition, has nothing to do with dancing. But if the teacher brings it up, no, but I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, well,
I know exactly what you mean.
There's the mental health guy who comes to help you, and then there's the guy, for the nutrition, but they're not dancers, so they don't know. And in the end, we are in the studio, and I'm like, well, you've been working for 3.5 hours. How about having a snack? Oh, no, because then I can't move afterwards. I'm like, well, no, that's crazy, right? So I think this should be like in the daily life, it should be incorporated. So,
I mean, I've had directors, they'll sit there and give lip service to things like, oh, nutrition, it's important. Dancers should pay attention to their nutrition. Okay, moving on. But then when you set up the schedule, you put somebody for 6 hours of rehearsal in a row without a break.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a minute, what happened to nutrition?
Yeah. Well, half an hour in Amsterdam, we had half an hour to eat.
Yeah.
And digest.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, so it's a bit like, okay, thanks for the lip service, but what are we actually going to do about it, or just rest periods, it's like, it's all just about push the dancers, push them. Rest is also important, and different kinds of rest as well. Mental rest, and just
and also knowing your body and knowing what is important for you. I mean, because we're all different, right? And this is what we should be encouraged to actually listen and say, okay, now this is too much for me, I need this much time. I mean, but that would be taken like, oh my God, who do you think you are? That you need to rest. It's like, well, I have a body, I feel it.
People set up a curriculum. I used to joke about it all the time. There was a young, amazing dancer. She was a small Japanese dancer in the company, and we always stood right next to each other at the bar. And I always looked around and I thought, why do I have the same curriculum and regimen as she does? you know, she doesn't go out and lift prima ballerinas over her head. She's doing quick little fast variations, you know, Cupid variations. I'm out there doing press lifts with, you know, ballerinas. You know, nobody ever paid attention to the fact that I need time in my day to go and work out and lift weights, you know, because that's my job, is to lift ballerinas. You know, that's not something that someone else has to deal with. You know, we all have different bodies, different demands, different things like that. And it was like, oh no, be in ballet class every day. Ballet class is important, but what about my time to go and work out and build my upper body strength?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not important. But it is my job. So when do I do it?
Yeah, no, but those are questions that are really important, because I find there's so many questions that are being raised for the health of dancers that are great, you know, mental health, emotional health, and, you know, nutrition and everything, but it doesn't seem to be coordinated. So, you know, it's a bit like it's like allopathic medicine. It's like you have a specialist for everything, but they don't talk to each other. So in the end, you know, you end up taking pills for each thing, and then they don't go together.
Yeah.
You know, so, and you have surprises. So that's why I'm thinking, wow, but so many people are thinking about it and they're brainstorming about it, but how about getting together in the studio where it's happening? So that's my.
Yeah, I mean, people, yeah, there's a lot of talk about it, but so far, yeah, it's kind of also a generational thing, you know. Previous generations just kind of, you know, they just do ballet and do it, go for it. There's nothing else you need, you know. Newer generations are a little bit like, oh, okay, you know, maybe there's some other things from outside ballet that we're incorporating, you know. I love the fact that a lot of dancers now do a tremendous amount of exercises and physical routines, you know, from gyrotonics to physical therapy, to Pilates, to cross training, to swimming, to bicycle, you know, weight training. They incorporate all of these other things into their ballet training, and it's amazing. You know, there should be a lot more emphasis on those kinds of things.
Yeah, but as you say, when do you do it? If you're in a big company that has nine different programs a year, like the Dutch National, it's almost impossible. Huh?
Yeah, it's very difficult to find time for those things, but you know, if you want to survive, you have to find a way to do it. But yeah, I still haven't fully figured that one out yet.
So, and well, I'm reading my questions actually, but you know, if you could go back in time, is there anything that you would have done differently in terms of mindset, choices, decisions? Is there anything you think, wow, you know, this could have been different?
You know, there's lots of little occasions, you know, there's, you know, conflicts I've had with people, or, you know, moments that I could have done a little bit different. But I think one thing, just sort of a general thing, is I wish I had started teaching a lot sooner. I wish I'd done more teaching while I was dancing. I think really understanding how to teach a ballet class, or just teaching people in general, is really important. And there's so much that you can draw on it as a dancer, to understand, you know, how the class works and how you can take full advantage of a ballet class, and just how to really communicate and work with other people. I think one of the, yeah, I not that I have regrets, but yeah, I think I would have been a much better dancer and a much better person, and just learned a lot of really interesting lessons in life had I done a lot more teaching before I retired from dancing. I did a couple of classes here and there when I was still dancing, but I wish I had done it on a more regular basis, because now I look back on it and I think, wow, yeah, that's if I had known then what I know now.
I think also it would have made you not only a better dancer, but a better communicator and a better understanding of who you are in front. I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you with that as well, I think.
Yeah, I'm encouraging my girlfriend. She's still dancing. She's in the Dutch National Ballet. I'm encouraging her to do some teaching now. You know, it's really interesting. You know, when I'm teaching now, just reading people's body language. And I know certain people, they're not intending to sort of look very nonchalant and uninterested in what I'm doing, you know. But it's not their intention, but they give off that vibe. And I know that as a dancer, I gave that vibe to a lot of teachers. And I think I would just be way more conscious of those kinds of things, you know, just giving teachers a lot more respect, and, you know, doing their combinations a little bit more the way they were intended.
Well, I mean, I think it's a very important point because we don't realize, and I'm completely guilty of that too. You know, again, you're in your box, you know, what we said at the beginning, you're in your little personality prison, which is, and you with your little aura and your little glamour, and you don't realize too much, you know, how much of an impact how much you're projecting on others, what's inside of you as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I think that is really important because then, you know, it's a never-ending circle. Then you become a teacher that starts projecting on the students because you haven't dealt with your own, you know, problems. You know, it's like it's something that never ends. So yeah, I think it's a very beautiful point.
Yeah, we've all experienced teachers and ballet masters that sort of are still projecting a lot of things in that way. And you're like,
but in the end, once you go on the other side, you start understanding, and you're like, okay, what do I do with this? You know, what is how do I stay centered even though all of this is happening around me? It's very difficult. I mean, you know, being a ballet mister, I think is the worst job ever. You know, in terms no, it's not the worst job. It's really interesting to do, but it's so difficult because
very hard job.
Dealing with all those egos, you know, and you're only trying to do your job, you know, in the end. And it's very difficult to handle, right?
Yeah.
It's a fast forward, you know, communication course. But since we don't do managing or communication course, it's very difficult.
Yeah. No, the ballet master job is the most thankless job in the ballet industry. They're sort of the linchpin, and they get very little respect and very little money and have very little time for their personal lives. It's
sad because it's a beautiful job too. I mean, you know, I've
so
done 3 years, but it's exactly what you're saying.
It's just so important to it's the linchpin, you know, they're the go-betweens between the director and the choreographer and the dancers, you know, they're right in the middle of all of that.
And they're the pillars because they hold the thing together. They make it happen in the end.
Yeah. That's where the rubber meets the road, is right there with the ballet masters.
So is this something you would like to do ever, or?
Probably not. I mean, I like coaching. It's fun. I like teaching. I do teach full time now. While I'm running Ballet Rising, we don't have funding yet, but that'll hopefully change soon. But I teach a lot.
Where are you teaching?
I teach at a small ballet school. It's an open studio here in Amsterdam called Zembrovski Ballet Dance Fitness. Former soloist with the company, great guy, super fun. It's a great community. It's an open studio, and all of my clients are you know, amateurs, adults. You know, they just take ballet for fun, and
that you learn a lot as well. I mean, I think that was my best experience teaching. I had a very big adult class, and it was amazing. In terms of healing, I think this is fabulous because those people love it so much. They're so dedicated, and they're so grateful to be able to do that. You know, so I also love the same.
Yeah, they're fun people, and they work hard. You know, it's like, wow, it's not like you go in and kind of just whatever. No, they work hard, but it's fun.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's just pure love of the art form, nothing else. Yeah, just come in and enjoy ballet, enjoy the community, and yeah, for me that's the best. I love it. You know, I like teaching kids. I like teaching, you know, sort of, you know, being that disciplinarian, you know, teaching people the finer points of technique and things like that. But you know, at the end of the day, I love getting in the studio with my adults and just, you know, have fun and work hard.
That's nice, beautiful. So, you know, we've all been through those 2 years of COVID. Could you tell us how it was for you, you know, emotionally, mentally, physically, practically?
Yeah, actually it was it was a crazy time. I think everybody says the same thing. It was crazy.
Not everybody does. It's very interesting how everybody, you know, found their own way of dealing with it.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was, you know, it was a bit unfortunate financially because I'm a freelancer. So I was just getting paid to teach ballet class, and I couldn't teach ballet class. So I was a bit worried financially, but actually, I think it was an incredible experience in the end. You know, I think we we all learned a lot of really valuable lessons as a result of it. And we became a stronger community from it. And so for me, it was a time to reflect, to look at our profession, at our art form, our community, and say, okay, how can we do things better moving forward? How can we sort of come together and be a closer community? How can we advocate for this art form in a new reality? And it goes back to, like, when I was a kid, I've always been sort of a big sports fan, and I've always kind of been a little bit irritated at the fact that I can anywhere in the world watch my favorite football team or basketball team on TV, but I could, at the same time, I'm a fan of the arts too. I could never get on TV and watch the Paris Opera. I could never go watch the Paris Opera unless I went to Paris, but I never had the money to go to Paris,
Now you can with the opera the
Yeah.
cinema performances, but that's
So
very
now we're putting things online, and I think it's the most incredible thing that we've ever done as an art form. I've always thought that people in the art that we produce, the Royal Ballet, the Paris Opera Ballet, the Dutch National Ballet, it should be for everybody. Everyone should have the opportunity to be able to see it and experience it, whether you can afford a ticket to Paris and buy a ticket to the Palais Garnier or not. I think it's great that now somebody living in Bolivia can get online and watch these masterpieces.
Although there's nothing like a live performance for me.
No, of course not. And it's the same thing with sports. Watching it on TV will never can never compare to what it's like to actually be in the stadium and see it in real life. And everyone in sports knows that, but it's the next best thing. At least you get to watch it. At least you can experience it. And that only drives people even more to go and see the sports live. And so I think kind of as artists, we've always had it a little bit backwards. I've heard people say in the past, oh no, if it's on TV or if we stream it, then they won't come to the opera house. No, I don't think so at all. I think that's going to push people even further to go, oh, wow, that was cool. Now I really want to go see that live. And sports are a really good indication of that. You can't get a ticket to FC Barcelona or Real Madrid. It's impossible.
It's a different thing though, it's
no, there's big differences for sure, but I think when it comes to just enticing people and exposing them to those kinds of things, it's great exposure, and then that sort of leads into something else. And it's not
when I'm afraid with that, actually, and I see it with kids or teenagers, it's like they don't watch the whole thing, and that's the whole point, because they're so used to having the 2-minute variation from YAGP, that's their reference. And once you say no, how about watching the whole Sleeping Beauty? And you're like, well, but it's 3 hours, and I don't know how many people actually sit through the whole thing. Whereas if you go to a show, you will.
No, I think people will. Yeah, some people won't, some people will. I think you'll get the ones who want to, and the ones who won't. So
that's true.
Your choice. I say, you do you. But I think for me, it's mostly just about exposing people and giving, for Ballet Rising, those are the people that I'm really wanting to work with and wanting to help. And those are the people that have the least exposure and the least ability to go and get that exposure. And so now they've got all the content they want, they can go and watch the Paris Opera or the Royal Ballet or the Metropolitan Opera, just get online and watch a streaming of it. And some will fall in love with it and want to go into the opera house. Some won't, to each his own.
Okay. All right. Well, I think I've gone around I have one last question for you that I ask everybody. It's like, if you had one single advice to give to a young dancer that is starting their career, what would that be?
I always try to encourage people to not just understand the fact that you love ballet, or dance or whatever it is you love. It's not enough to just understand that you love it. As a kid, I always thought, oh, I love ballet. Great, I love ballet. And what? Understand why you love it. What about it is it that really draws you to it? Because a ballet career and just any type of competitive career is going to be hard. You're going to you're going to suffer. It's not going to be easy. And you're going to question why you're doing it many times, multiple times per day sometimes. But if you keep coming back to why you love it, what is it about it that you love, that acts like a guiding light. And it just as a ballet career, just as an example, the ballet, the actual dancing is only about that much of what it takes. Your career is it's about playing politics. It's about doing things the right way, going into the right places, knowing the right people. It's about so many different things, and the dancing is just one part of it. But if you remember, if that's the part that you love, and you love it enough, that is going to hold you to it, and you'll remember that, and it'll just be a guiding light through you throughout your career. And all those times when you're sitting here questioning yourself, why am I doing this? Why? You remember why, and it'll help you. It'll guide you through it.
I love that. Know your whys. And then,
Right.
so that's your light at the end of the tunnel, and then you follow the tunnel.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Casey, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
I wish you all the very best with Ballet Rising, and I will follow what you're doing. Do you have a lot of projects in sight?
Oh yeah, we're there's a lot of stuff going on. We're getting ready to we're doing our fundraiser. Well, we're launching our fundraiser pretty soon, but we're going to do a 6-part documentary film series about ballet around the world in the most unlikely places. And so we've found a bunch of really fascinating stories of people who come from incredibly diverse backgrounds, and we're going to follow them around, and why and how they got into classical ballet, and what is their passion, and what were the adversity that they came through. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So we got that coming up, and a few other little projects here and there, but things are rolling.
Nice. Well, I wish you a lot of luck and fun with this project.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a great conversation.
Thank you, Casey.